Hello, this is Aitana, and you are listening to Season 1 of the Forcen-Vazquez podcast, where we talk with swimmers of all sorts from the New Zealand swimming arena, from swimming every day through the winter to crossing the Cook Strait. We will hear stories of passion, perseverance, and dedication. Welcome to episode 5 of Season 1 of Forcen-Vazquez. Today's guest has crossed the English Channel, the length of Lake Taupo, and he is the fastest swimmer across the Cook Strait, holding the world record at 4 hours and 37 minutes, almost as fast as the ferry. I have the pleasure to talk today to Casey Glover. Welcome, Casey. Thank you for joining me today to the Forcen-Vazquez podcast. And I am very excited about this interview today. I've heard about you for different sources, and now I'm very excited about talking about your swimming and all those adventures in the water that you have had. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. As you said, I've done a fair few adventures in the open water and the pool over my career of swimming. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing what I've done in the past. So, yeah.
Great. So my first question is always the same. Have you always been a swimmer? How did it start for you?
So my mum, she couldn't swim. And so she wanted all of us kids, there's 4 of us, to make sure that we could swim, and I'm the oldest. And so, yeah, at 5 years old, I started swimming lessons, and it was down in Huia Pool in Lower Hutt. And the instructor there noticed that I was quite a good little swimmer, and I was swimming one length within only a few months of doing the lessons. And then they were like, right, you need to join a swim club. So from there I went on to Nine Swim Club, and then the coach there noticed that I was doing well, and by 7 I started racing. And so I think I was 7 years old, and I was beating 10-year-old kids in the school swimming sports.
Nice.
And there was a little group of us that all probably I went to Normandale Swimming School, and there was about 4 of us that were all quite good swimmers. So having that group of us, and we all went to swim club and had lots of fun. And but then as I got a bit older, I went to a swimming club called TSW in Wellington, and that's when I started getting I was top in New Zealand for my age when I was 10 or 11 years old, and I had like stacks of medals at the Wellington Swim Champs. And that's probably about the time when I was doing started open water swimming as well. And there's the local wharf to wharf swim, which is 1.1k, and I think that was my first open water race. And yeah, I ended up being one of the fastest in my of the age group, and it just kind of progressed from there. But then as a teenager, I was one of the late puberty, so I was only 5 foot something, and all my friends were 6 foot. And so I was 14 years old racing these giants, getting absolutely smashed. And it wasn't until 17, 18 that I started catching up. And that period was really hard for me. I almost stopped swimming probably for a good few months, and a coach, one of my old coaches, he messaged me on my birthday. I think it must have been 16th birthday, and saying, "Oh, I hope you're doing okay." And then I switched clubs, and then started getting the passion for swimming again. And then when I got a bit older again, I switched clubs just for location purposes. And that's when my really serious training, I was doing 10 times a week, morning, nights, and we were swimming like 6 up to 10 Ks in a session, and so that's kind of how I've progressed from learning to swim one length over that decade and a bit up to being very high set standard of swim training.
Very competitive and lit. I have a few questions already. When you started swimming, when you did your first race in open water, how old were you?
I would have been 10 or 11. I did the surf life-saving nippers as well, but I can't remember what age I was. But yeah, that it would have been 10 or 11 when I did the wharf to wharf.
That's very young.
Yeah.
So how did you decide to go and do a race in the open water? Because being a swimmer in the pool, it was a group of your age that you decided to go in open water, or?
Yeah, there was other kids that were all doing it, and you just, because probably there was a group of us doing it, and I'd already been playing in the ocean for years, so I didn't have any fear, and to swim 1.1K wasn't a big deal because I was swimming so much in the pool. And so it's just like, it's just the same as swimming in the pool, but there's no tumble turns, and I wasn't very good at tumble turns, so it was a great benefit for me.
Exactly, easier.
Yeah.
And then when you stopped swimming for a little bit, and then you started swimming again, that was all in the pool. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I was doing open water events all the time, but I was predominantly a pool swimmer right up until I was 18. I just did the open water swims just for a bit of fun and stuff like triathlon as well. I was in a development squad when I was 11, 12 as well, for triathlon. But yeah, because I did, and I got into the Kapiti to mainland swim, and I was 14 when I did that and came second, and then I won it when I was 16, which also kind of helped fuel the swimming passion again, and the reason I love swimming so much, other than it feeling like awesome and stuff, but the wanting to be really good at swimming was because I saw Daniel Loader win 2 gold medals at the 96 Olympics, and I was only 10 years old, and that was the dream from there. And yeah, it didn't quite come to plan, but I was still achieved a lot along the way.
Yeah, that is a good goal to pursue.
Mm.
And how did you transition from pool to open water? Like, when did you, or how did it happen that you were training in the pool and then competing in the pool, and then you said, okay, now I'm going to focus more on my open water, and I'm going to do the swims that I want you to tell me about.
Yeah.
The open water swims.
Yeah, so it was probably around that 18, 19-year-old mark, and I was getting like top 10 in the pool, but I was podium placing in open water events, and also the 10K open water event got announced at the Olympics, and so I then focused more on, it was becoming more of a sport, or like an Olympic standard, and so then I didn't need to, then I could adjust my goal to try and make that instead of the 1500 meter in the pool, which I got very fast, but not to that. Like I was only, I think my best placing in New Zealand was like 6th place or something like that. So, and I felt better in the open water. I enjoyed it more. I've got a powerful stroke, so any choppy water, and I can adapt to the cold as well. So my body produces a lot of heat, so swimming fast, and I just wouldn't really get cold, and unless it would take me ages to get in the pool, but once I'm moving, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's good. This is my next question is about well, I have all these questions, but it's about the cold and about the powerful stroke and choppy water, because for our listeners that maybe don't know what have you achieved, you hold the world record of the fastest swimmer across Cook Strait. And for those that don't know, Cook Strait is the strait that the body of water between the North Island and the South Island in New Zealand. And it has very strong currents. It's a very special place. And normally people take between, I don't know, 8, 12, 15 hours. And can you please tell us how fast did you swim Cook Strait?
So 4 hours and 37 minutes is how quick I went. So
quick is the right word.
Yeah, almost as fast as the ferry is what people say.
That is absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, it is crazy. So yes, please tell me the story. I follow the swimmers. I've been following the swimmers in the last couple of years to see how they do, and 4 hours and 30 minutes is completely crazy.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go right to the build up towards it. So as during those teenage years, one of my close friends, or two people that I knew, they swam it and became the youngest people to swim it. So one was John Gatfield and another one was Kate Johns, but both of the youngest records have been beaten since. And so kind of knowing that they'd swum it, then that I was like, oh yeah, that seems achievable. But I was a bit older, and I was like, oh, I'll do it one day. And my mum, being a very proud mother, would be like, oh, so when are you going to swim it? And I was like, oh, not just yet. Wait a few more years until I get a bit faster. And then I was, I think around 20, we booked in a slot with Phil Rush, who takes people over, and so we had that week window in early April, and so I was had finished school. I was training 10 times a week, and I was studying a diploma in exercise science. So, but my full focus was swimming, and the main goal was that Olympic spot later on, and the short-term goals was doing 5 and 10K events locally in Australia and whatnot. So some of the training sets would be that consisted within a 6 to 8K session. The classic one would be 3100s, and would have to try and hold 1 minute pace per 100.
Wow.
And I got to, I think 28 were all under a minute, and I missed 2 of them. And then there's other sets like 10 300s or 10 400s, and you'd have to hold between 110 pace and per 100 meters, and on about 30 seconds ish rest. So I was able to maintain 5K an hour, and we did some big training camps over summer. So I was 100 kilometers in a week while we're on a training camp. And so
100 kilometers in a week.
That
is a lot of swimming.
And so we would wake up, would go do our 10Ks in the morning, have breakfast, have a nap, and sometimes there'd be a dry land session doing like abs or boxing. Then we'd have a big lunch, and then chill out for a couple of hours, and then there'd be an afternoon session of another 10K, and then chill out in the evening, and just do that for an entire week. Pretty pretty full on. And so that was the volume build up, and then it tapered down towards April. And so, yeah, probably around the 8th or 10th of April, it was getting the call ups from Phil if the swim was on or not the night before. And then, so it would have been the 12th of April. Yep, the swim's on tomorrow morning. You get up at 4 a.m. and you head over to the Mana dock. And at that stage, we didn't know what way I would be swimming, either south to north or north to south. And so on our way down on the boat, so it was my dad, a family friend, my coach Frank Terrell, and then there was Phil Rush and the two skipper and another boat crew. And so we're in a big boat heading down towards Macra, or to the bottom of the North Island. And there was dolphins by the boat, so I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be a good day.
That's always a good sign, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, I hope they get to swim with me. But they didn't. They must have been busy. And yeah, about then they were like, right, we're going to do north to south. So we parked up and got all the Vaseline on, and just kind of mentally trying to prepare for, because it was the furthest I'd swum was 10k in the pool. So to then step that up to, and that's with stops and stuff. So before that, I'd only swum a 5k race.
So just to give
5.6, sorry.
Yeah, just to give a little bit of reference to our listeners, the longest that you had swum before was 10k, and how long is Cook Strait? Is around 23?
Yeah, 23, 26 is yeah. So
it is more than doubling the distance.
Yeah, and so I was a bit worried about could I actually do it, but I was confident regardless.
But you have been doing 100k weeks. That's a good build up.
Yeah. So I was well prepared. But you still have that thoughts in the back of your mind, like, oh, I'm swimming double the distance. What will I cramp up, or who knows what will happen out there? And anyway, jump in the water. It was pretty chilly. It was 16-ish degrees to start with, I think, and it was quite choppy at the start, but the water was you could see the water coming out where we started. It was quite a strong current, but we didn't know if that was going to be good or bad at that, and got into it and did the first hour and had swum just over 5k. So and that's when I had my first pit stop, and it was very choppy at that first block, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can continue this pace and this chop, but thankfully the swell smoothed out, and I was able, and I got into a better, smoother rhythm of my stroke, and yeah, within so then after the first hour we had every half hour stop, not pits, drink stops, and so floating next to the boat having a drink, and Phil would say, yep, you're doing well, or keep it up, kind of thing. And yeah, and then just keep doing half an hour after half an hour. And I can't remember exactly when, but he had said, you've done this amount of time, and you've done 17k in this amount of time. And he was like, work out the math. So I was swimming along, I was like, holy moly, I'm swimming fast, kind of thing. And then another hour and a bit, I ended up getting to the finish and touching the rocks of the South Island, and yeah, and everyone on the boat was betting that the tides would turn, and everyone couldn't believe it that I'd swum it that fast. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool indeed. Because one of the things about the Cook Strait is the tides, right? Like you can get caught in the tide and you end up going back into the strait if you don't time it well, or if you're not fast enough, then you're swimming forward and suddenly you are not moving, or even worse, moving backwards.
Yeah, and I think that's why the swim's so I guess famous, because it's so challenging. If you don't get that window right, you can be just Now I've heard stories of people only being a couple 100 meters from shore, and they're just stuck there because the tide's too strong.
And they can make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, also to give a little bit of a reference, I was talking to Phil the other day, and he was saying that in order to be, or to have a chance to be successful, you have to swim at least 3K an hour consistently for whatever hours you need. So swimming 5K an hour, it's not double, but it is a very good pace. And
So in Cook Strait, I was actually swimming 6 to 6.5 K, I think, just because of with the tide being, and I'm very good at being aware of what the water is doing around me. So I can adjust my body, and I was able to ride the swell and really get that a maximum advantage. And I think that was just over all the years of swimming, and also doing surf, and just being able to feel the water, and having that being able to grab and hold on to it.
I think that is. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and that's why just swimming, being able to swim so quickly.
Yeah, I think that is one of the beautiful things about swimming in the ocean and experience open water swimmers, is that it's not only the swim itself, it's just being aware of the environment and all the different pieces that come into the swim and that make the swim successful. It's not just that you're a good swimmer, it's the weather, it's the wave, it's the wind, it's the current, it's your mental state. So it is kind of so many little pieces that have to come together in order to do a fantastic swim. So it's quite challenging just to have everything in the right position. And what about the mental part of it? Because swimming, it is very of course it's physical, but for me it's also very mentally demanding.
Yes. Yeah. I get, as a kid, you would get told to do a silly big task, and most kids would stop partially through because they would get bored, but I would just continue on until I got it done. And so that kind of determination, or once you get given the task, you just do it. And with swimming, it's no matter kind of what the distance was, if you look at it as being, I've got to swim 26K, but if you look at it, I'll just swim for 1K, and then I'll reassess and I'll swim another K. So breaking it down into very achievable steps, like even just going for a swim at the pool, I'll just hop in the pool, and then I'll swim to the end, and I'll go again, and you
kind of 3 hours later.
Yeah. So whoops, I've swum 30K by accident. And so it's all about breaking down that giant object and making it a very small one. And you can do that anywhere in life. If something's too hard or doesn't seem achievable. So in a lot of these big swims, and because you have these swim breaks, you have your drinks, because you're not refueling. But it also helps having like that support crew. giving you tips and like, oh, your hips are dropping a bit. So then you have other things to think about. You think about your technique. Am I catching the water well? And then also just letting your mind wander, which is what's really cool about swimming, is you just you can sing songs as well. Often I'd just repeat the chorus over and over again.
Yeah, and because you've done some other long distance swims, you've swum the length of Taupo, which is the larger freshwater body in New Zealand, which is 40.2 k, and you've also swum the English Channel, right?
Yes, yeah. So the Taupo swim, that was a build-up swim to do the English Channel, and so I was the second fastest to swim the length of Taupo. So I did that in 10 hours 52, and then the English Channel, I was trying to break the record, but didn't quite get a good day, and but I still got the fastest for 2013, and I did it in 9 hours and 14 minutes. So both of those swims, the weather turned during the swim, and the English Channel, I swam that on the biggest set of tides. So just got swept really far, did a big S swim, and where my Cook Strait swim was a straight line across. So all quite different experiences.
Yeah, and this is what we were discussing before, right? That it's not only that you've done the training. I mean, that has to be a given, right? You do the training, you put all the effort, you try to control all the things that you can control. But in swimming, there are so many things that are out of your control that it just makes it kind of a little more exciting or adventurous.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, what variables are you going to be thrown at you today? Yeah,
exactly. So you can prepare as best as you can, and then just relax and enjoy the ride, because it's definitely going to be a good ride.
yeah, exactly.
Cool. So and now what is that you do now? Do you coach people to swim? Do you teach people how to swim? Do you have any relationship with swimming at the moment?
Yeah, very little. So I've got a couple of friends that do CrossFit, and they are trying to get better at swimming, because swim events occasionally pop up. But I've recently moved to Christchurch, but before that I was in Wellington, and before that in Auckland, and I was doing quite a bit of swim coaching, just as a hobby. Or like kind of like a side kind of thing. And yeah, so I was do one-on-one coaching, or a squad that I was looking after.
So what did you stop swimming?
So yeah, I missed out on the Olympics in 2012, and so that was quite heartbreaking, and I wasn't prepared to swim for another 4 years, because the squad that I was training with, I was in my late 20s, and they were all very young. It's very financially demanding, and you're working a very odd, because you're swimming in that morning and night, and then you've got the kind of small window to work, and at the time I was working in the evenings doing swim coaching while I was swimming at those later years. And it just got to a point where I wasn't enjoying it, and I wanted to start a career in IT and put my effort into a career instead of swimming. So I swam for that one more year of doing the English Channel, and after that I pulled the pin, and I occasionally get in the water and do the last big swim I did was Waiheke to Auckland about maybe 5 or maybe 6 years ago. And that was the rescue chopper like as a relay swim. And that was good fun. So I can still hop in the pool and churn up a few lengths, but yeah, I end up in the spa pool very quickly after.
Yeah, I know how that feels. Don't you miss it?
No, not really. Swam so much that I get a chlorine rash now. And yeah, if I hop in the ocean, it's all for to go surfing or to muck around. But yeah, actually swimming, and if it's like going back to an old job in a way that you it's funny because you loved it so much during those times, but it's been, I've done the dash.
You have indeed. And what's next then?
I don't have any really sporting goals. I just keep fit. I have scoliosis, so my spine's got quite a big lateral curve. So I just go to the gym or CrossFit to keep fit, and try to just not have any pain in my spine. But it carries a toll. And yeah, there was a bet going around with my friends that we'd all do the coast to coast, but one of the group have done it, so that might be a long-term goal in a few years once I feel ready to put in some serious training in again.
It is a lot of training for any of those events. It is a lot of time and a lot of dedication, so I understand that, like, just peel back a little bit. This is one of the last questions. What do you think that makes a successful long distance swimmer? Because we've talked about, like the mental strength and the training, and I guess it's a little bit of everything, and the perseverance of just doing it, and that you have to do it.
Yeah, so I think it all comes down to the individual of what success means to them. So is it just completing the distance, or is it doing it in a certain time? So with whatever their goal is, and then you successfully achieving it, and then to do that, you then need to put in the hard work or the training, the practice, and then that prepares you for that performance. And so in my mind, that's being successful. But everyone's going to have a different view of what they want to achieve, and so I've trained like hundreds of people over the years, and they've all had different goals of doing an Ironman or a triathlon or an open water event, and it's really cool seeing them build up. And one guy, he could barely swim a length when he first started coaching with me, and then he completed his Ironman a year later. And I've had Masters athletes go to the Masters Games and win a whole bunch of medals. So that would be my view of being successful.
Yeah, that's great. It's true. Like, the goals are different, and people, it's a journey. It's not only the end goal and complete the race, but it is a journey and all that you put on to get there.
Exactly.
So you've swum the English Channel and the Cook Strait that are part of these big 7 swims around the world. Do you think you will do any other of those swims?
Yeah, well, I actually had that was on my whiteboard of goals at one point, and I had a bunch of other swims, and even Stewart Island was on there, and then there was a whole bunch of there's World Cup swims as well. But yeah, after at that certain point in time where I wanted to just stop, I gave up those goals. And maybe when I'm older, I get a bit bored of what I'm doing currently, and I feel like hopping back in the pool. I might do them. But I'm actually heading to Japan to be the support crew for a good friend Paul. He's done a few of them, and so he's got the Japan one, and then he's got the English Channel. I think in late August. So he's doing 2 big swims in only a couple months. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm looking forward to be on the boat and having that perspective instead of being in the pool in the ocean.
In the ocean, yeah, that would be exciting. Just being part of the supporting crew, that would be really exciting. Nice. Well, all the best for your friend and for you. And,
yeah, thank you. Yeah,
I will I will want to hear about it when you come back. And
debrief.
Exactly, we debrief. Well, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the water. Thank you for listening to the Swim in the Strait podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast, connect on social media @Swim in the Strait, and leave us a rating on your favorite podcast platform.